Hi guys, welcome back to the Improvement Season podcast. It's me, Steve Hall, and on the other end, Pascal Floor. Moustache is still going strong. It just keeps every time I see it, it's like it's a little bit further along. It's curling a little bit more.
It's crazy, Steve, because here on the weekend, as you know yourself, Katie and I, we celebrated our wedding that took place in summer, but up until now, we didn't really find the time or have the time for ourselves of actually making it happen. So we went out, booked a fancy hotel room and all that kind of stuff. And this was one of the very first times that I actually then walked through the city. The only time that this happened with that kind of mustache was when I was actually visiting London or so, right? But it became very clear to me and very apparent how much of an attention this mustache is actually drawing on you. Simply because we were just walking on the street a couple of times and I was just like, why the hell are people just staring at me? Like this type of staring as if you have some kind of weird deformation in your face, you know, where it's just like, what is going on with him? This is the way that people looked at me. They actually turned around and I could feel it and see it on the kind of the outside of my eye. And then we actually went to that spa to get a massage. And then there was this woman sitting right in front of us, also waiting for then getting a massage. And she was just also staring at me the entire time. And I could feel it. And you know that kind of sensation when you feel that someone is actually staring at you. And then at some point she was just saying like, excuse me, is that mustache real? And I was just like, yes. And that's not the first time. Also, last week on October 31st, Halloween, we went through the neighborhood and I was dressed up as like a captain. Not because I have like a captain costume. It was just like the only thing that I could find. And I thought like, yeah, that will do. Then we walked through the neighborhood and there was this one woman staring at me as well. And I actually said like, is that a real mustache? I said, like, yes, it is. It draws so much attention. It's crazy. And I'm really not that type of person who wants to be the center of attention.
Okay.
But it's also something that is self-induced. But it was just very interesting to see how much of an attention it draws to someone. And also the woman, she basically said like, okay, it's very uncommon to see a young man wearing a mustache like this. And this is why she was just like so kind of baffled, and also the thickness of it and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's the story about my mustache.
I think when I was younger, I think I just had this assumption that every adult male can grow like infinite beard, infinite mustache. And I still think there's probably women more so, because obviously they don't grow facial hair, or I mean, not to the extent we do, most of them at least. So yeah, you're like, they might also presume like most men can do this, but that's why it's actually quite rare, not just from the fact that like, I don't know, people might not choose to grow it out, but I know personally I could never get my mustache to that like level. And I know people who are like, oh, I wish I could grow a beard like you, Steve. And then I'm like, oh yeah, like not everyone has that kind of gift. It's your genetic gift, so you're giving it to the world.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I could think of better things to have a genetic gift in,
Sure.
except for instead of like a beard growth. But yes, and also I think that many people can't do it due to, I don't know, social obligations in the form of like a job, looking kind of decent for a job. If you're kind of a barber, sure, yeah, you can do this. If you're kind of a hipster barista, sure, you can do this probably as well. But if you're working in an insurance company or so, probably something that you can't really pull off all of the time.
Yeah.
So I think that there are probably people who would like that, but they are under kind of obligations and also maybe even pressure from their partner, because I don't really think that all of them like it. Yeah.
I mean, it is a big bush on your mouth.
It is.
I don't know.
It is.
And also, I mean, I think, you know, if your partner loves you, they should just support you in anything that you've like, not anything, but lots of things. Like a mustache, like that's a pretty, like, it's not a big deal, but I guess it's the one that comes to mind is like, I got a hand tattoo, of course, recently, and that in the past, Like, I don't know, I probably could have done it with my previous job where I was in retail and I was working from just like in the office. But there's many jobs where like hand tattoos still aren't like acceptable, and like tattoos on the neck or the face that like can't be hidden. So yeah,
I think we may also be still ignorant to the fact that because we are living in big cities and we have lived in a city like this for a very long time, and bigger cities are more tolerant when it comes to that, more acceptable, or have a higher level of acceptance when it comes to this. Whereas then if you go to the countryside and show up with kind of those tattoos or go to more conservative places, I think as a visitor, it may still be all right. But if you were to live there and if you were to work there, for example, then it would possibly even become a problem.
Yeah, you're right. In terms of like the diversity, when you think about like we're in Berlin and London, some like, really diverse cities with people from all different races and like all different shapes, sizes, like they look different. Like me walking down the street and I see someone who's, I don't know, it could be anything. It's just not a surprise to me because it's like every day I see something where it's like, oh, wow, that's like different, but I'm not like, but if you go, I don't know, like you said, to the countryside or you go to some countries, I think is it like, it's not Bali, but somewhere in and around that kind of area where they're like, if you don't look similar race to them, you look different. Like they want a photo with you or something because you're like a spectacle almost.
When I was in Tokyo back in 2014, I wasn't allowed to show and demonstrate my tattoos in certain places. So, for example, I was training in that one Gold's gym, and I wasn't allowed to actually then show my tattoos.
That's crazy. I'd have to be in there with like gloves on training.
I think it's they tolerate it for people who are kind of foreigners, but
sure.
I think also there are just some conservative people who simply don't want this in their own facility, and I think it's absolutely all right because you're then the customer and you have to abide by their rules.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, I guess. That could be a whole crazy podcast in its own right, but where was I going to go with this? So you had a nice time away. Are you in your third week of the Mesocycle now, or are you second?
No, it's the beginning of the second week now. Yeah. And back to normal again. Finally, I can say this. Last week, I even said to you, while we've been recording the Improving Season podcast, I still felt a little bit sick. And then towards the end of the day, actually then subsided. It was very, very weird. And I was able then to sleep without nasal spray. And then ever since then, it just improved. And now I'm kind of back to normal again, which is very, very cool. Tightness here and there, kind of niggles, aches, and something that we've discussed as well. Those kind of things that people normally don't really bring up or talk about on a regular basis because it still allows you to go into the gym, do your very thing, and just bragging about it doesn't really make any kind of sense. And you even said that you are also dealing with kind of low back stuff and all that kind of stuff, you know? So this is where I'm at the moment. And yeah, nothing fancy, to be honest.
Yeah, it's like there has to meet a threshold where I'll talk about it. If it doesn't meet that threshold, I'm just like, it's insignificant enough that there's no point even talking about it because it's just going to disappear after I don't know, a few weeks time, or it's not preventing me doing anything day to day or anything like that. That sort of thing. So that's good. Yeah. And then in terms of, is your body weight still kind of slowly creeping up? Have you had to make any nutritional changes in that regard? Or
no, it's so unfortunate because we are so much opposites to each other when it comes to this. You just need to keep on ramping up the nutrition, the food and all that kind of stuff, and need to modify things on a regular basis. And I'm still on poverty macros, so to speak, and I don't need to make any kind of adjustments. It just kind of creeps up, and I'm just like, what the fuck, eh? This is so unfair. I want to be one of those guys eating a little bit, just a little bit more, you know? I'm not even like asking for a lot of 4,000 calories or so, just a little bit more. But my wish isn't being heard. Maybe I need to write a letter to Santa this time around because that's what the kids are doing, and they are always getting the presents that they want. So,
oh, you're doing it. Yeah. When I guess I want to ask when you'll break it to them about Santa. What sort of age? I don't even know when I learned Santa wasn't a thing, and it was my mum who was like bringing me my presents.
I think it's a gradual process, isn't it? And at some point they just realize that it's not real, and then it just fades away.
It's not like a revelation, like, oh my God, Santa's not real. It's like, yeah, I had that feeling.
Yeah, exactly. Where are you at the moment, Steve?
So I've just started the new Mesocycle this week. So 3 days in, so I've just done a push, legs, pull. All good sessions so far. Pretty much a rinse and repeat of my last Mesocycle. I just rotated some exercises that were just pants, basically. So we have this prime extreme row, and I was trying to figure it out to try and use it in a neutral position for mostly lats, and I was trying to do it like a one-arm row and kind of almost get myself like away from it so I got a real big stretch on the lats. But every time I do it, it just feels completely off, and it felt off the entire Mesocycle. And I was just like, I'm going back to the strive row. So I've just brought that back in as an example. I've been doing the decline kind of machine press they had in there for ages, rotated that out because it was getting a bit stale for dumbbell press, which I haven't done a flat dumbbell press in ages because in the gym, they only had dumbbells up to like, I think it's 40 kilograms maybe, or 38. So not that I'm that strong that I can't use less than that, because I'm actually using less than that now. Hopefully I'll go above 40, but it always was a bit of a kind of preventative of me going for that, because I was like, oh, I'll hit a wall at some point. So I don't know why I never really used it as like an accessory either, particularly. So anyway, I haven't used it for ages, so I rotated that in. But lower body training hasn't really changed. My quad movements have just progressed really well. So the Smith machine squat and the belt squat are just, my performance is so much greater than the last Mesocycle, and I'm just excited to keep pushing those. They're still both relatively new movements. The Smith squat was only in for that last Meso, and the belt squat's been in for like 2. So for progression to be a bit faster on those is quite normal. So training pretty much the same as it has been. And I haven't changed any frequencies or anything like that. I think I maybe have put in a few more myo match sets for like things like side delts, but nothing too much. And then nutrition, I have had to push. You're right, as in 3,007 to 3,800 calories carried me up to like high 180s, but to push to 190 and beyond, I'm having to push now to 3,900 to 4,000 calories, just to kind of get above there. Which is in like when I look at my history of where my food goes, that's where it goes. And then to get to kind of the 200 to above 200 pounds, I have to go to like over 4,000 calories, like 4,200. Yeah. Which is just, My appetite is good though at the moment. As long as I stay, like we spoke about a while ago, or like a couple of episodes ago, if I stay on top of my stressors, my sleep, I don't stuff myself later in the day, I eat kind of the quote unquote right foods, which for me is like, don't eat a fucking bowl of oats. It's just a bad idea. I have to have a bowl of cereal. If I do all of that, my appetite is still fine, which is really good.
Steve, a couple of things then. What interests me, are you feeling, or do you have the feeling that you're more active, more fidgeting? Do you feel that the food is actually getting through you a little bit faster? Are you pooping a lot more often when it comes to this? How do you feel that or your body is responding to a higher caloric intake? What's kind of the symptoms, and why do you think that you always need to make those adjustments?
So it's a very good question, actually, because I think it's kind of like realizing Santa's not real. It's gradual, so I don't necessarily notice. But I can say, actually, an interesting question would be, and sorry for the listeners if they just don't want to hear this, Pascal, how many times a day do you poop?
It always depends on then the phase that I'm in. In a gaining phase, when I'm very well fed, very well fed, and I can easily also remember back to when I really pushed my body weight up, then it was easily like 3 times per day. Okay. In a cutting phase, it's always just like once in the morning time. And very lean phases, it can even be that there are days that pass before you are passing. And I'm not, that's like, not nice. No, not saying this in kind of like a living sense, but more so that things are passing through you.
So at the moment you're around 3.
No, right now it's more like 1 to 2.
1 to 2. Okay.
Sometimes there are days where it's then up to 3, but it's more like random.
Yeah. So I guess that makes sense, because when you get to that, when we now using that model of like the upper and lower intervention points, when you are pushing your body weight up, which is kind of where I'm near that upper intervention point. So pooping frequency increases as you get towards the lower end, and below it, like it reduces to almost not even once a day, to 0 to 1 a day. But mine at the moment, And off-season standard is like when I'm in this kind of 185 pounds plus, it's like 3 standard. But it's, at the moment I'm 3 to 4. So maybe
Holy cow.
yeah, I'm getting that an extra poop later in the day that I normally wouldn't have is now there and present. And I'm like, okay,
It just goes to show then that your body is very much kind of fighting to take up more nutrients, because the faster things are just going through you, the less time it has to take up all of the macronutrients, micronutrients, vitamins, and all that kind of stuff. And it just literally just passes through you.
Yeah. And then in terms of like fidgety and everything like that, I can't necessarily say I've noticed, but maybe you'd have to hang out with me for like, oh, well, we did hang out. I don't know if, maybe if you were to look at me, you'd notice that I was like, I don't know, doing stuff, but
no,
I can't say I necessarily
You seem like a normal human being, to be honest.
I'm not
like also sitting down and relaxing. And so if I just were to compare you to me, we were basically kind of the same. There was this one day where then you guys went out on another walk, but for me it was just more due to the rain and just like not wanting to go out during that time. Yeah. Other than that, we did things kind of pretty much the same.
Yeah. All I can say is, like I know when I diet, there are things that I don't do in terms of, I don't know what it could be. Like I don't randomly want to play with Ada, for example, with her tire and just like run around. I'm doing all of that. It becomes very noticeable, especially when I'm with, it's probably something that maybe you'll notice with your kids. But I notice it when I kind of see my nieces and nephews, that when I'm well fed, like I will just want to do everything with them. I'll be on the trampoline, jumping all around, and like, I'll be like, oh crap, I'm absolutely knackered by the end of the day. Whereas I'm feeling completely knackered on initiation when I'm dieting, and I don't do all those activities with them. I just like sit down and I'm like, yeah, it's all good. So
that is something that I'm especially feeling when I'm very much sick, and because it happened now over the past couple of weeks, a couple of times, like very sick, very tired, man, I'm just like getting irritated very quickly as well. And it really reminds me of like deep cutting phases where you really have to be careful of what it is that you say, how you lash out, and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, we are all humans, and sometimes it just happens. But yeah,
that's my least favorite part. I think that combined with low energy levels is the being irritated so easily, especially because I feel like I'm a relatively relaxed individual generally. And so when I get like, I don't know, like little things just annoy me, and I'm like, even like, again, it will be like you with the kids, like they don't even know that they're doing anything that could be deemed irritating, but you find it irritating because you're in this kind of dieted position.
And I don't want to be like this.
No.
And that irritates me even more. And it's kind of a vicious cycle of like, I'm angry at myself and then I'm lashing out again because I'm angry at myself. And yeah.
And I guess the only other thing I notice is I'm warm. Like I just am generally like very warm, but it's been very cold here. So like it's not been super noticeable. So
yeah, that's something that I'm right now not really noticing. It's probably also due to the caloric intake, because I know from a time when I was very much overfeeding that I'm also getting hot, but then I'm also at the higher threshold of my body fat percentage that I'm comfortable with. It's also there because we've been talking about symptoms, what to look for when you're getting close to that higher threshold of the body fat ceiling. I really also then noticed that my just overall temperature is much higher. And whenever I'm eating then something like, I don't know, even something like potatoes, if I'm eating it then, I'm very much heating up very quickly, especially in the summertime. So you're sitting at the table, you're eating some carbohydrates, and then all of a sudden you're starting to sweat. Right. But that was when I really pushed it up there to kind of 90 kilograms and so.
Yeah. Oh god, yeah, it's not a nice feeling when you're big. The worst is when you're on holiday and like, I don't know, I've done it enough times and I will continue to do it, but it's nice going on holiday after like a mini cut or something, because then your appetite's pretty good. Well, for me at least, my appetite's good, and I'm liking my body a little bit more in terms of like revealing it when it's hot. But when I've been on holidays like peak mass before, and I'm just like, man, I feel like a slob.
Oh man, I do still remember 2016 when I was still working at that CrossFit box and I really pushed my body weight up. way too high. I was at around 95, 97 kilograms, somewhere around there.
That's heavy.
Way too heavy. And it was in the midst of the summertime. It was freaking hot. And I very much regretted it. I mean, never really push to your highest level of body fat in the midst of like a heat wave. It's awful.
Actually, I just thought of something I might be changing in my training. I think I've actually introduced, because I've done this with a few clients, is partials. So I am going to experiment with a few lengthened partials on pulling.
I wanted to make a joke on it, but then you actually came out and said it. So yeah.
Okay. So yeah, it's on things like a cable row, where I'll do like a one full ROM set maybe in week 1, and then my next set I'll do is like a partial ROM in the lengthened position. So it'll be like I'll just come past the knees, for example, versus pulling it all the way back to my stomach. I'm just going to see how it goes and how it feels, just for some of those kind of exercises where it's like the back, a lot of the movements are hardest in that shortened position, and I don't know how much you get from going all the way there apart from a nice standardization. And when I have experimented a little bit with it, it's felt very wrong doing partials, but I want to give it a bit of time just to see if I get anything there.
So for me personally, as a coach, or looking at it from a perspective of a coach, there are a couple of things that I think are probably optimal, but are very hard to apply on then clients when they maybe lack the experience on how to apply things, on how to properly execute things, etc., etc. So even if then maybe the scientific literature shows beneficial effects on a certain thing, often, well, I'm not saying often, but there are certain things that I'm still not incorporating into then handing out to my clients, simply because there may be too much of a variation, fluctuation, and inaccuracy in the way that I want things to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it absolutely makes sense. It's kind of like when you're talking about, as an example for me, when I'm auto-regulating some clients with their set volume now and then tweaking it, I only have a small handful where I'll let them do it because actually they're better at doing it. But again, you have to have been working with them for a long, long time, know that they really know, and they know themselves better than what even you can kind of make the tweak because they're them. Yeah, absolutely. I know what you mean.
Yeah, no, exactly. There are just a couple of things that are very hard for you as a coach to monitor, get a good feedback on, and make them incorporate it appropriately and get the results that you would like to. Often as a coach, you want to give out solutions and not make things any more complex or so. And for you, it's the role to actually create results. And there are a couple of ways where we can increase the likelihood and our chances to see the results that we want. So making things more complex, making things unnecessarily more complex is often not really helpful.
Yeah, you have to absolutely have ways of systematizing things in, like I've introduced, I know some of the things that I use, I like it because it works within like a template format. I might do it differently. I don't know if I was not using a templated format or what have you, but it just works so well there. And in fact, even for myself, I find it better to do it that way because it's kind of, I like that it makes sense week to week, it's systematized and it's not kind of a little bit random. So I can definitely see what you mean. And yeah, the reason I want to try it is because I have given it to a couple of clients who are interested in doing it. So I was like, right, I've got to also try this thing out and see what, if there's anything worth there. But with the kind of length and range of motion, I think you can use a lot of that literature just to support the fact that you want to be using full ROM. You potentially even want to pause in some of those lengthened positions. You want to pick exercises that emphasize the lengthened position a little bit more quite often. And yeah, don't like you see someone do a pull-up, for example, the number of people who do pull-ups and don't come all the way down. Just get a nice big stretch. Yeah. Like, it's just like, well, apply it and you get a full stretch there by not sacrificing that. If anything, don't come to the top and squeeze for like a couple of seconds. Probably not necessary and maybe a bit more fatigue than you're kind of worth. Yeah,
that's exactly it. Any other things that you've changed recently where it's just like saying, all right, this is very interesting, or something that you wanted to experiment with?
No. Really not. I don't think there is anything. Not much has changed training wise, which is nice because I think it's kind of similar where a lot of people have got with their nutrition, where they're like, I know kind of where I want my protein most of the time. I know then kind of where I want my fats and carbs most of the time. And then it's just a case of manipulating my calories to see what I want to happen on the scale. It's very similar kind of when you get that systematized kind of approach to your training, you just feel very confident. You just kind of do it each and every day. It's just like simple. It's nice. So no, there's nothing else that I've changed.
Yeah. Neither on my end. So I think then we can actually take a short break, listen to the beautiful sound of the advertising about our coaching, and then come back with 1 or 2 questions over on YouTube. Let's do this.
Do you not see the progress you would like? Are you sick of writing your own programs? Or perhaps you need some accountability in order to stick with a plan? Then it's time to start working with us. We at Revive Stronger offer a truly personalized coaching service. You'll get more than just an email with some macros or random cookie cutter program. With Revive Stronger, you will be the center of our attention. You will receive your own fully individualized training protocol alongside a customized nutritional strategy. We create the coaching around your needs, wants, personal preferences, and your own unique lifestyle. Every single week, we delve into your program in order to make appropriate adjustments so that we get the most out of your time and the best possible outcome. We help both female and male athletes to seriously change their body composition by adding more muscle mass and decreasing fat tissue. No matter if you're a competitive bodybuilder or just want to look better, if you need help with your progress and taking your physique to the next level, our coaching is for you. It's time to make a change. Sign up today and let's revive stronger.
So let's start then with Frugal Bodybuilder. Great stuff as always, Pascal and Steve. Thank you very much. Perhaps not a podcast Q&A question, but here it goes anyway. How do you deal with clients with bulking anxiety, e.g. someone who was obese, lost a lot of weight without doing resistance training, i.e. no recomp then, after getting to maintaining a healthy body fat percentage, decided to lift, but fears gaining any fat, worrying about spiraling back. So basically fat phobic or fat phobia, which we both basically went through already.
Yeah, it's definitely one that we've discussed many times on the podcast, but it's something we probably haven't spoken about for a while because I don't know if that's a case of like neither of us really suffering from it anymore. I don't think really. But I definitely understand where this person's coming from. I just remember my first, I did my first clean bulk. It was meant to be a clean bulk in that I ate no dirty food and I just ate shitloads of clean food and put on a lot of fat because I was just gaining weight way too quick. And I was not happy with kind of how I was looking and feeling. And then I cut down. And once I cut down, I was like, I never want to get into that position again. And so I started obsessing about gaining at a really slow pace and kind of not really gaining anything. And as I've spoken about many times, that really shortcut my progress. Just being in a surplus just seems to do something for the body where it's just way more ready and able to perform and recover and therefore gain muscle tissue. So I kind of had to go through that wheel spinning and through that uncomfortable period of many years of training really hard, thinking I was doing the right thing with my nutrition, to then see like, man, I didn't really make that very good results. And so I've been through that, and I would hope that sharing my experience can kind of help to convince someone like yourself, frugal bodybuilder, to actually get into a surplus. Because I just think about it this way: you put so much time, effort into the gym and kind of try to grow muscle, and if then you look back in a year's time where you haven't really been in a surplus, you've been at maybe a bit of a maintenance, and you're like, man, I haven't really made any progress. Like there's a whole year kind of wasted, hours of time in the gym where you've just really been like spinning your wheels. Whereas if you just put yourself in a slight surplus, you can just see those results come through that you wouldn't have seen, and you see that kind of investment then pay off. And it's also a great reminder that you lost all that weight previously. You're not suddenly going to kind of rebound and become obese again or what have you. You're just gaining a little bit of fat on the side, which is the cost of doing business. And you've lost a ton of weight before. Like, I don't know how much it's been, but clearly it's been a lot. And so you know you can do that. And now it's just way less. So you can also kind of, maybe you can throw in like a cut when you're a bit uncomfortable, and then you can be like, oh man, get some more buy-in, because you're like, oh, actually I lost that fat real quick, I lost that weight really quick, I can actually mass for longer, and like I know that I can take this fat off very quickly. So I just say like, that's one way I'd go about thinking about it, at least, and trying to convince someone why kind of it's a good idea to get into a surplus if they really want to change their physique.
Just to be careful, it was more like a client. How do you deal with clients with bulking anxiety? But yeah, in itself,
but I might use my example, as like for a client.
Yeah, it still holds true, everything that you said there. And I would frame it also a little bit differently. So just adding to what it is that you said there, you can always confront them with, okay, what's the problem here? Is it just like the scale weight number, for example? Because some people are just afraid seeing then that number creeping up. And if it is, if you then ask them like, okay, if you now were to weigh 5 kilograms more, you are 5 kilograms heavier, but you were to look kind of the same, so the same in terms of the definition, would you have a problem with that? And if the answer is no, then you're basically just afraid of a number going up. All right. And then it also then comes to the question of like, if you're now investing time into the entire process and you know that you will look the same in a year from now, even though that you're now investing time, is that something that you want to do? So basically you're investing time, still look the same, or you could end up not investing time and still look the same. What is it that you want? Of course, when you're investing time, then you want to have some rewards. It's kind of like investing into the stock market. You're not investing so that you can come out with the same amount by the end of things. You're hoping and speculating that, of course, it will pay off in the future and you will be rewarded with more profits in the future. And that's why you're getting into things. Because if you know that it just stays the same, why would you then actually do this? There's also an opportunity cost there as well. You can then spend the time on other better things. So if you're investing the time that you will never get back, you better make sure that you get something in return. And if you frame it like this, I think it puts things a little bit more in perspective to have, I don't know, as if it's like money spent on something.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the most valuable resource like to us all is time. And man, you're investing an hour 5 times a week, like for the year, and you really haven't seen much dividend from that. Like that's a lot of time that could have gone into like, I don't know, think about how many different things you could be doing with that time and better spending it. So yeah, I completely agree. And I think it's just like work with them. And when I'm working with a client like this, it's getting them to focus on the pros versus the cons so much. Because there's a lot of pros that come with being in a surplus, especially for someone like this who have been dieting for a long time. And then just like trying to focus on those and just taking your time, like realize, I think a lot of people, when they're in this position, they think, oh, as soon as I'm in a surplus, I'm going to become like a fat lump again, like I was before. It's like, it takes like it took you probably a long time to get to that point. It will take you a long time to get back there. Yeah. And we'll be monitoring things so that you never get back to that position again. Yeah. And we gain muscle.
Exactly. And when you're coming up to this point, you can always then pull back again. Just don't make the mistake to be too emotionally invested in when you're taking a look at assessing your physique, because you could see the things there that are simply not present, for example.
Yeah, sometimes you really need someone you trust, at least in your corner, that you can report to and can give you an objective kind of outlook. Because we can be our own worst enemy at the best of times when we just convince ourselves of various things.
That's the thing. Then other than that, Elijah, once again, thank you very much for the past couple of questions. Another great episode, and thanks for answering my question. Thank you very much for giving us some questions to answer. Got to drop more dark jokes, Pascal. I don't know if that's a good idea. If you could look like one superhero from the Marvel Universe, who would it be and why? Funny enough, when we were in Vienna, Steve, Mike, and we were just like, of course, chatting about random things. And there was one discussion where that was very similar of like, if you could be one Marvel hero, who would it be?
I think Mike asked, who's your favorite Marvel character?
Favorite. Oh, yeah.
So that's the way I took it. Because looking like and her favorite are different for me.
That's true. So first and foremost, are we talking about look-alike from only the Marvel universe that Disney now has created? So the actors, or are we talking about the entire Marvel universe? So the comic series and all that kind of stuff?
Keep it to just the Disney one because I think
All
I'll
right.
get lost otherwise.
Okay, cool. Then, Steve, who is it?
So from looks, oh man, I'm trying to think if I have them all in front of me. I mean, the first person that just comes to mind, and this is who you picked as the, I think in your head, who not your maybe your favorite, but it was who you were like thinking you would want to be, would be because you talked about the powers. It would be Thor. Let me just say it, Chris Hemsworth. Like he's got a crazy physique. Like he is in great shape. Like I saw him in the recent Thor, and I was like, dude, this because people have been questioning, is he on gear? Is he not? And this really made me think, man, this guy's just exploded. He looked ridiculous in the recent Thor. I was just like, man, he is a great physique. So yeah, I think Chris Hemsworth.
It's probably so. For me, it would probably be Chris Hemsworth. So
he's a beautiful man too.
He is handsome. He has the muscles that you want as well. Probably enhanced muscles. From a power perspective, man, he is a god. So what else do you want? Of course, you can, be a higher entity as well that is then existent in the Marvel universe. But so far from a Disney Marvel universe, I didn't really see the what is it called again? The Eternals. I didn't watch that movie because
I tried.
Everything that has followed so far is just like utter garbage, and I'm not following the Marvel universe anymore when it comes to this. And also, if we want to be a little bit more controversial and bring up the dark jokes, I could see myself being Scarlet Witch because she's fucking hot, and who doesn't want to be like a hot witch who has the power of the universe basically at her hands? Like honestly, I want to look like her.
Yeah, she was. Have you seen the latest? What was it? What's it called? Doctor Strange. She was in that, wasn't she?
Yeah.
I didn't like her in that because it was a bit weird. But yeah, she's. Have you seen the? What's it called? Her and her husband, and they have the Disney show and all of that.
Yeah, no, I never watched
You haven't
it.
seen that? Okay,
No.
I have seen that. Yeah, she's. Is that Scarlett Johansson? Is that her name?
No. What's it? Joe. She has also kind of a Norwegian name.
Okay. Yeah, she's pretty hot,
Can it be? I think so. What is it again? I need to now Google it. Scarlet Witch.
Oh, it's because Scarlett. That's the only reason I thought Scarlett Johansson was because it was Scarlet Witch.
It is. What's her name again? Where is it? Why doesn't it say here actress? Oh man.
Now I'm thinking maybe I want to look
Elizabeth Olsen. That's her, isn't it? I couldn't find it right now, but I'm very certain. Yeah, Elizabeth Olsen, which is very kind of Swedish.
Yeah,
if you think about it.
Looking like Thanos would be pretty badass as well, you know.
Yeah, but man,
he's
you're
ugly,
purple. You have like a very weird chin, bold as well.
Yeah.
But he is big, though. He is big. He's like he's kind of like that power lifter shape, like Russian enhanced power lifter, big.
And obviously the Hulk, but he's green too. So
yeah, he's pretty, I would say. And the question was clearly like, who do you want to look like and why? And I mean, if I want to look like some kind of Marvel character, I would love to actually be handsome. Yeah. Why would I want to be ugly? It doesn't make any kind of sense.
Oh dear, we had no more questions. And actually I had a bunch over on Instagram that I was like, man, these would be great questions to flush out on the podcast. Unfortunately, I can't remember what they are, so I can't
Oh man, Steve.
bring it up.
Shit. What's going on there, man? You're younger than me. So
my brain is very selective about what it wants to remember, and it just flushes out the rest. It's like a new day. It's like you refresh like on your screen. It's like it's just a new day. Remove the history. It's all junk. Onto the new stuff.
So I have an idea of what to talk about. Are there any things that right now stand out in the fitness industry that you've seen? I mean, yes, right now, lengthened versus shortened muscle length, the range of motion kind of discussion, but anything else that you've seen that is right now kind of trending, a little bit controversial or anything alike?
It's a good question because obviously hosting the podcast, this is the sort of thing I try and pay attention to and keep an eye out for. And I can say there hasn't been a lot. Like the stuff with Milo was kind of with his meta-analysis and looking at partials versus full range of motion. That's been the most like, I guess not groundbreaking, but it's been the most interesting thing that's been coming out recently. I haven't seen anything that's come out that's like controversial or particularly different. I did get sent. I couldn't get full access to it because it was just you'd have to pay to get full access. It was someone sent me James sent me from ATP Performance or AT Performance sent me a study that was kind of looking at doing cardio before your hypertrophy workout, and it seemed to potentiate results. But I couldn't look into it because I'm very skeptical of it, because I don't know. Actually, this is something to talk about, Pascal. Warming up for the gym, what is your approach for like just your general hypertrophy sessions? Obviously, I was with you for when we were in Das Gym. I don't know if it looked different to that.
No, it's just going in there, doing kind of 1, 2, 3 sets and go for it.
Yeah.
I was always like, back in the days, I was always taking a lot of time to warm up, like on a treadmill, just warming up there, and then doing a couple of dynamic stretches and also using then kind of building my way up to a heavier weight. And I've never really found a big difference, to be honest. What about you?
Yeah, so I went through that whole, I call it like the Kelly Starrett era with Supple Leopard, and where I had my fucking lacrosse balls and I'd made it into a peanut so I could do the erectors down the back, and I did all of it.
Swinging the legs back and forth.
I do still swing legs, so I do that still for my lower body days. So I do some that's my like dynamic part. I do a bit of that before I get into things. Can I say it makes much difference? No, it's quick, it's easy. I always do that. That's about the only thing I do for like upper and lower is I will do some dynamic work, some dynamic stretching, maybe some short, just like, because it just feels good to like stretch out the chest or like lunge into kind of for the adductors, things like this, or adductors, and doing those sort of bits and pieces. They feel nice, but yeah, like you, it's mostly about, if I'm freezing cold, I'll get warm. But that's very rare that I get to the gym freezing cold. So then it's just about kind of acclimating into that first compound lift most of the time. If it's a compound lift, it's an isolation lift. I might do similar, but way less acclimation because it's way lighter. So I might do a couple of sets, warm up, kind of lighter weights, kind of lower reps, just feel it out, make sure that muscle feels warm. And then if anything, like, again, you individualize it. So if my like knee has been bothering me, maybe I'll stretch a bit more around that area, or I might even do some myofascial release if that seems to like temporarily kind of take away some pain or discomfort. And same with my shoulders, if they're feeling a bit funky, I'll do a bit more kind of rotator cuff work or just some like light lateral raises. I tend to do a little bit of that before I start my upper body work. But like we did in Das Gym, if I don't do that, I don't really notice any particular difference when I get into things. So yeah, I can't see why doing cardio before a workout would potentiate hypertrophy unless I was cold, and so it gets my heart rate up a bit, it gets my kind of blood flowing, gets my temperature up, and so I'm in a better position to perform. I can't see why.
I can definitely tell though when I'm very cold, but that rarely happens, that I definitely am not ready.
Yeah.
But once again, that hardly ever happens, that I'm showing up at the gym being very much, I don't know, super cold, because I'm leaving home, sitting in the car, getting to the gym, and then I'm inside right away once again. And yeah, I'm also then on the treadmill at home and warming up there before I'm then actually putting my clothes on and hitting the gym. So for me personally, I'm not going into kind of a warm-up routine, to be honest.
No, and like I do the whole, they've been called like pump covers or what have you. I guess I do a pump cover, but I don't think about it that way. I just wear like a hoodie when I start my session, and maybe trousers, joggers, and then I might strip those off as I'm starting to warm up, or I'll keep them on if I'm still not that warm at the start of my session. And then once temperature's getting up to a point where I'm going to sweat in it, I'm like, right, I'll take it off so I cool down a little bit. Maybe I'll wear a beanie this time of year. That seems to help quite a lot. I quite like wearing a beanie, but I think warming up for the gym was something that you could really overcomplicate it, and I think some people maybe do, and it has to be something so individual to the person, because if you're not holding on to any kind of particular niggles, injuries, like you don't need to spend like half your session warming up. It needs to be something that's like 5 minutes. So then you just get to work, because a lot of people don't have the time to kind of, if it is wasted, warming up for that long. And yeah, don't know. Before it was more of a powerlifting thing, like foam roll every single area of your leg before you can start training.
No, absolutely. No, Yeah, nothing more to be said there, I think.
And then I have one more question. I'm interested on your perspective because I've seen differing views surrounding this in terms of cardio in off season. And some people say like we should be doing cardio in the off season because, and I don't know if I can frame the argument completely, but like improving cardiovascular fitness, so you can maybe recover from more volume. You won't get gassed out within sets, like a set of hack squats. You don't get gassed out or whatever. And so kind of doing it for heart health reasons. And I have my own opinion on it, but I want to hear what your opinion is before I give away mine.
So my first initial thought is that I think that we have to then separate between who it is that we're talking about. Whether you're an enhanced athlete who's weighing now 250 pounds or so, there could be a potential benefit to then taking care of your cardiovascular ability, because we know that being a heavier individual puts a lot of pressure already on your cardiovascular system, and also then the performance enhancing drugs as well. So possibly there's a benefit to it, especially when you're just chucking down lots of food as well, and just being sedentary all the time, maybe not the best thing to be doing. However, I think, and this is just really my initial thought without having thought about it too much in depth, right? Just my reaction to your question. I think this is one of those things that natural athletes once again take from enhanced athletes that are promoting this. And it's simply not really applicable or feasible not feasible, but not necessary for most natural athletes. Not only are they never really pushing their body weight up to, okay, I wouldn't say never, but most people don't really push their body weight up to such a significant extent that they put so much pressure on their heart health. Secondarily, how much volume do you really need to do that you're then gassed out in a session? Also, then how poor do your endurance or stamina have to be in order to be absolutely gassed after kind of one hack squat? How, sorry to say it that way, how much of a fat piece of shit do you have to be to only be able to do one set of a hack squat in a session? Right? Honestly. And I think it's one of those things that it has been taken out of context again, promotes something that has been being picked up by enhanced bodybuilders that doesn't really have a direct carryover into natural bodybuilding, in my opinion. I think being active, relatively active, is still probably something good, but actively doing kind of cardio, I don't really think it's necessary. If you have like a step count of like 10,000 steps per day and you're doing resistance training 5 times or 6 times per week, probably you do everything that you possibly can in order to still stay fit.
Yeah, your perspective is similar to mine. In that, I could have just asked you, Pascal, rather than asking your opinion on it, I could have just said, do you prescribe yourself or your clients cardio in their off season regularly?
No.
So nor do I. And I am unconvinced, again, speaking to a natural audience, because I think you're right. I think so often naturals pull stuff from the enhanced side. Like I bet there's a natural bodybuilder out there who is taking like all these like liver and heart health things that are only required because these guys need it because of the enhancements they're taking, but because this supplement store sells it and this kind of enhanced athletes promoting it for health, I bet there's some natural guys who don't realize they don't need these because they're not taking this kind of exogenous various drugs and things. So I think similar with the kind of cardio thing. And I always find it interesting, again, like you said, if people are getting gassed out within a set of like Smith squats or hack squats or whatever it might be, a squat variant, that's often what it is. I mean, for me, it's not unlikely that you're cardiovascularly unfit. It's more likely your breathing isn't in a good place. Like you're just holding your breath. I don't know, your Valsalva maneuver is just held for too long. Like take a pause at the top, get your breath, go again, what have you. Like get your breathing and that rhythm right. I find that solves a lot of people's issues. And I think about, obviously, most of the time when we're talking about this cardio too, it's low intensity, steady state. It isn't like interval style training, which makes sense because that's likely to have a higher interference effect than like lower steady state. But then my heart rate is going to get higher and I'm going to get better cardiovascular results from doing like a hard working set in a hack squat, for example. So like if you are getting gassed out by that, probably just like continuously doing more volume and pushing your bounds, you're going to get more kind of fitness through that versus like low steady state stuff that's not really pushing you to any sort of intensity. You're just kind of burning calories at that point. So I think, sure, if you're really sedentary, there's probably benefits to it, because we have seen just like having higher step counts up to like 8,000, 10,000, and then there's kind of diminishing returns after that. But up to that point, it's really kind of improves cardiovascular outcomes. Sure, if you're getting less than that, some cardio probably is going to help you. But like you said, most people are getting around like 8,000. It's not a huge ask.
And then we are not talking about cardio for then cardiovascular abilities, but more so due to, or just for general health of being more active. If we're specifically talking about improving your cardiovascular ability, then you probably need to do a certain type of cardio. It's not enough to just like walk. Right? You probably need to do then cardio to improve that. And once again, how fucking piss poor does your stamina have to be if you're just like absolutely gassed by one set of hack squats or so? And I'm not talking about being out of breath, because out of breath, yeah, you pushed it very hard. You probably need a little bit of rest time because you've exhausted yourself. But if you, after one set of hack squats, you're just like, whew, what a hard session. I need to go home. Can't do any another set here or any other exercise. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Sorry. Like, I love your just brutal bluntness. It's great. But yeah, and I'm unconvinced by it. I've never seen it with athletes where, like, again, if they're breathing, cardiovascular seems to be the limiting factor. Normally it's breathing. And when they get that in place, then their cardiovascular isn't such a limiting factor. And then, yeah, you think about like your higher volume, like hypertrophy, lower body hypertrophy, lower body workouts are probably more cardiovascularly demanding than like doing some low intensity steady state of some kind. It's like, well, I don't know, it's probably not necessary. And I don't know, for someone like me, it'll be not a wise move, because it just means I have to try and eat more. It's probably not going to help. I guess some people kind of say it helps digestion and things. So, but I mean, are you doing cardio after you've eaten? I don't know. That doesn't seem like that's probably what people are doing. I don't know. So anyway, it was interesting to get your perspective, because your thoughts align with mine.
Yeah, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I'm not considering any kind of rationale for it that they are actually bringing up. Could very well be the case. Maybe there is a good rationale for it. But right now, just thinking about it and really trying to be unbiased, just my initial thoughts, going through it in my head, what the potential rationale for it may be and what the potential benefits can be. I can't think of any, to be honest. Like, of course, yeah, having a good heart health is a positive thing. That's not what I'm saying. But if you are a bodybuilder, you have a decent physique, and you're a natural bodybuilder, you're basically taking care of yourself in regards to sleeping well, eating well, going to the gym several times per week, having a decent step count. Like, honestly, you're probably doing most than 90, 95, 99% of the people out there who also still have a decent heart health. And if then you're running into issues about heart health, it's probably more of a genetic trait rather than you being a little bit heavier than the gen pop out there.
Yeah. I was just trying to search, because I did create some notes on it, because I made a reel for it, and I was like, did I forget anything that I wanted to say? And I can't find my notes. Typical of Clark. But I'll try and dig it out, because I will post it, because I felt like it was a bit of a controversial statement, but seeing as you align with my thoughts, and I'm sure some other people do, and then maybe I'll get some of the arguments back to me and it will convince me a different way. But I just can't see it holding someone back when I think about what's promoting hypertrophy. And yeah,
it's once again, I don't want to come across as someone who's immediately dismissive of something that I haven't really given enough thoughts about. But to me, it immediately sounds like what it is that we've touched on last week about kind of all of those gadgets that have been promoted, all about the supplements and all that kind of stuff. It's a current thing that is then being promoted of being beneficial, and then 2 month from now, no one is ending up continuing doing this because eventually they figured out that it didn't really have the benefits that they were looking for. And that goes with all of the other things that have been promoted over the past 3, 4, 5 years. There have been so many gadgets, so many kind of things to do. And often it's just like being disregarded at some point after the hype is dying off or so.
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of stems from that, and again, the natural side more than the enhanced side, I think, where people just want to do everything they possibly can that could possibly help with anything. And it's like, probably the main thing you could do is spend less time thinking about bodybuilding and kind of chill out a little bit, because
it's the same. If you want to do something good for your health, I'm all for it. At the same time, though, don't expect to have, what is it again, bare feet shoes, or what they are called, like to have a major impact. The Vibrance, to actually put a lot of weight on your deadlifts or so, right? Or to completely change the way that you're training. Don't expect that those digestive enzymes, sorry, Chris, will have such a positive impact on your digestion, and you're going from having diarrhea all the time to having the best stool in the world. All the kind of things will probably be negligent in your outcome. And the things that really do make a difference is time, putting in the work and effort, and also doing the freaking boring things over a longer period of time. It's just that. It's just that. And unless we are getting to the point where technology is actually giving us like those magic pills, there's nothing else. There are no magic pills. There are no magic gadgets. And if there are, then once again, it will be technology and science who will deliver it for us. Not some kind of random company who's a startup just coming out like from 2 months ago or so and we're riding a wave of a trend or so.
Yeah. That reminds me of CBD oil big time. But I think the only kind of, to play devil's advocate a little bit against ourselves here, is if some of these things excite you and they're not going to cause harm, like I'm kind of a little bit like, go for it. If it's interesting, exciting, like, and it's not going to harm you, it doesn't take you away from the principles that work. Maybe sometimes let's not use that word. Let's using something a bit novel and different kind of keeps you a bit more excited, engaged in the process and adhering longer term. I think that's fair enough. On the note of enzymes, it's interesting, Chris commented, because I had a client that was asking about digestive enzymes because she has some digestive issues. And I was like, from my understanding of digestive enzymes, like they aren't an evidence-based supplement to be taking. And so I was trying to find something on them, couldn't find anything much on Examine, but then I researched and I found Gabrielle Fondero on an episode. Basically, she came down to the point of like, there's like no evidence to suggest that they're going to actually help digestive health. I think basically the body ends up kind of not being able to use it, kind of like glutamine, in the sense of like you don't actually get the glutamine because I can't remember the process exactly. But essentially, she was like, people, when they take digestive enzymes and have this, maybe there's a placebo, but oftentimes people change other things in addition to the digestive enzymes, and that's what leads to their positive kind of anecdote, and not the digestive enzyme itself, because there's nothing she could conceive to why a digestive enzyme would be able to help someone.
So it's basically like many vegetarians or people who are turning into being vegetarians, that they immediately live a better and healthier lifestyle because of their choices, and the choices that they did before were just like absolutely piss poor, and now they are just making more conscious choices around those healthier things. And it's not necessarily the being a vegetarian per se, but it's more like the mindfulness of doing something.
Yeah. No, that's exactly it.
Sure.
And
it would have been my same intuition about things. So why take a supplement if making a conscious decision around kind of the diet has probably a much, much bigger impact on things? So let's just assume I always get constipated whenever I'm eating. And this is actually the case. Whenever I was eating, for example, like low-calorie ice cream, I was getting bloated as hell because they also contain a lot of fiber, right? But the solution isn't then for me to then make it happen in that I get some kind of supplement to help me digest it. The solution is probably to get rid of that food and replace it with something else that my body is just capable of digesting normally and naturally speaking.
It was Gabby said that the enzymes don't survive the acidity of the stomach, so they just die. So they don't actually end up being able to take effect, essentially.
So you're basically throwing money into acid.
That's what it
is.
Yeah.
So it would be the same as putting up a bucket outside, putting some kind of acid in it, or making a fire and just throwing it in there as well.
But I think, again, if something like that is helping you, like it is with Chris, like I'm not going to say like stop doing it.
No,
it's not causing harm. Is
I'm
it?
also a little bit taking the piss here, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm taking it a little bit over the edge with that example, but it's kind of, if we really think about it, it could also be that if you're throwing kind of things in the fire and you believe hard enough that it goes into the spiritual realm and it makes you feel better, maybe it has the same effect then on your digestive system as well.
Yeah.
You know?
Mind is a powerful thing, to be fair.
It is. So, guys, thank you very much for this episode. One thing that I want to make you aware of is that I opened now the Discord channel for you guys. We kept the Discord channel kind of private and separate to our athletes and the mini cup movement. However, people in the fitness industry, they are not so much into Discord. If you are one of those people, though, I'm always sitting at my desk. I'm always having Discord open. So you can get into our Discord group. The link is in the description below. Go in there, and then you can constantly at least chat with me. Steve is not always there. So you can ask questions there, have a little bit more of an interaction rather than sending things over on Facebook or so. But I really do have the feeling that people in the fitness industry, they are still on Facebook most of the time, whereas everyone else has moved on to other platforms.
Yeah, I am still trying to get used. I'm still trying to get used to Discord. I slowly will get there. If people tag me, I'll definitely respond. The thing I meant to say at the start, which I completely forgot, which maybe you forgot too, was that you updated the clothing line.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So people can get hold of this fresh new clobber or like this drip, whatever you want to call it now, with the kids. And yeah, it looks really decent. Pascal's done a really good job. We've refreshed kind of the logo on there, so it looks a bit more discreet. It's something that we think you could wear to the gym or wear like every day. We're excited to get some ourselves and like wear it, and so you guys can kind of see it on us. But yeah, we appreciate if you want to support the brand. You want something that's like a little bit less. I kind of think sometimes when you have the big Revive Stronger logo on there, it can look a little bit maybe like in your face, obnoxious. Maybe you don't want it. You want a bit more discreet. So it can be nice like that. And yeah, we appreciate anyone who wants to pick that up and support. I know Elliot, my client, has already picked up like the full range. So he is on it. So we know we have some people wearing it already. And yeah, Pascal did a fantastic job on that. So definitely go check it out, at least just to see how it looks.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm very, very pleased with the design and stuff because I very much try to keep it casual and something that I was just thinking like, what would I want to wear outside the gym and or inside the gym? And that's just where I was coming from with this. So very slick, very kind of casual, something that you can wear in nearly all kind of circumstances and at any kind of event if you want to. So go and check this out. I really do hope that you like it as well. And yeah, that's it for this time, guys. As always, leave kind of a like, leave a comment in the comment section below. I really do hope, as always, that you took something away from us. I think that those episodes that we are doing, the Improvement Season podcast, are always kind of more easy listens. And I think that people, at least that's how I am, at least, I sometimes need a podcast to listen to that I can just like keep running in the background or something like this instead of always being bombarded with information and then trying to sit down, really concentrate hard and all that kind of stuff. So guys, as always, thank you very much for tuning in. And I guess I'll speak to you soon.
Cheers guys.
Losing weight fast while maintaining muscle mass. Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? It isn't though, it's reality and we know how to do it, and we will help you achieve this. The Minicut Movement is an 8-week fat loss program to make you lose a huge chunk of fat while maintaining muscle mass at the same time. We will support you from the beginning to the end so that you see the results you would like to and come out of it much stronger. You'll receive a fully automated spreadsheet that is based on your nutritional needs. You can choose between 6 different male and female training templates. Over 30 videos will guide you through each and every single step of the Minicut so that you're getting the most out of your journey and that you always know what to do. But the best thing is that you can start whenever you want. The Minicut Movement is open 24/7. So if you want to learn more or you're ready to sign up, hit the link in the description below. So let's revive stronger together.